My name is Ronald, and I've been thinking a lot about the past lately. It's funny how life can change in an instant. One minute you're living your best life, and the next, everything comes crashing down. I've been wanting to share my story with someone, anyone who would listen. It's a story about betrayal, heartbreak, and ultimately survival. I met Eva in college. We were in the same program, studying business administration. I was immediately drawn to her energy and enthusiasm. We started hanging out, and before long we were inseparable. Our friends would often joke that we were meant to be together, and I guess they were right. We started dating, and it wasn't long before I knew she was the one for me. Eva was amazing. She was smart, beautiful, and kind. We would spend hours talking about our dreams and aspirations. She was my rock, my partner in every sense of the word. My family loved her, and she fit right in. My brother Gerald was a bit more reserved around her, but I brushed it off as sibling rivalry. As we got closer to graduation, we started making plans for our future. We talked about starting a business together, traveling, and building a life. It was all so exciting. I felt like I was on top of the world. My best friend Jean would often join us for dinner, and we'd discuss our plans for the future. Ava's friends, Ursula and Vincent, would sometimes join us too. It was a tight-knit group, and we all supported each other. After graduation, we landed good jobs, and our relationship continued to blossom. We would spend our free time exploring the city, trying new restaurants, and just enjoying each other's company. It was the perfect life, or so I thought. Looking back, I can see the signs were there, little things that I ignored or downplayed. But at the time, everything seemed perfect. I was happy, truly happy, for the first time in my life. And then, everything changed. I'm not sure when it started, but I know exactly when I found out. It's a moment that's etched in my memory forever. I remember feeling like I was living in a dream, and then suddenly I was awake. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. It was like my whole world had been turned upside down. I didn't know what to do or where to turn. All I knew was that my life would never be the same again. As I look back, I realized that I had been blind to the warning signs. I had been so caught up in my own happiness that I ignored the subtle cues that something was wrong. But once the truth came out, I couldn't unsee it. The memories of our time together were tainted by the knowledge of what had really been going on. I'm still trying to process everything that happened. It's been a roller coaster of emotions, from anger to sadness to betrayal. I've questioned my own judgment and wondered how I could have been so blind. But as I sit here reflecting on the past, I know that I have to move forward. I have to find a way to heal and rebuild my life. It's not going to be easy, but I'm determined to come out stronger on the other side. I'll share my story, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'll reveal the truth about what happened and how I coped with the aftermath. It's a story of betrayal, heartbreak, and survival, and it's a story that I hope will resonate with you. I started noticing little things about Eva that bothered me. She would get these calls, and whenever I walked into the room, she'd quickly hang up. At first, I thought maybe it was work-related, but the calls kept coming. She'd say it was just a colleague or a friend, but I wasn't convinced. One night we were out with friends at a restaurant. Eva got a text message, and she excused herself to step outside. I waited for her to come back, but when she did, she seemed distant. I asked her if everything was okay, and she just shook her head, saying it was nothing. I tried to brush it off, but the incident stuck with me. I started paying more attention to her behavior. I noticed she was spending more time away from me, claiming she needed to work late or run errands. I'd try to call her and she'd not answer, saying she was in a meeting or driving. Gerald, my brother, seemed to be around more often too. He'd drop by unannounced, and Eva would always make a point to talk to him, laughing and joking like they were old friends. I didn't think much of it, but it did seem like they were getting closer. One evening, I came home early from work, and I saw Gerald's car parked outside our apartment. I walked in and they were sitting on the couch watching TV. They both looked up, surprised to see me. Gerald got up, saying he was just dropping off some books he'd borrowed. I wasn't sure what to make of it, but I let it go. As time went on, these little incidents kept piling up. I'd find Eva's phone buzzing with texts from Gerald, and she'd just say they were discussing work projects. I started feeling like I was losing my grip on our relationship. I confronted Eva about it one night. "Hey, I've noticed you've been talking to Gerald a lot lately. Is everything okay?" I asked. She looked at me, a bit taken aback. "What are you talking about, Ronald? We're just friends. Don't be paranoid." I didn't push the issue further, but the doubt had already crept in. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The next day, I decided to talk to Jean, my best friend. "Hey man, I've been noticing some weird stuff going on with Eva. She's been distant, and I saw her talking to Gerald a lot. Do you think I'm just being paranoid?" Jean looked at me thoughtfully. "I don't know, Ronald. I've seen them together a few times. They do seem close, but maybe you're just reading too much into it." I wasn't sure what to think. Part of me wanted to believe that everything was fine, but another part of me was screaming that something was wrong. I decided to keep a closer eye on things, to see if I could figure out what was going on. As the days went by, the seeds of doubt kept growing. I couldn't help but wonder if Eva was hiding something from me. And then one day I stumbled upon something that would change everything. I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand. It was a text from an unknown number. "Meet me at the old warehouse at midnight. Come alone." My heart started racing as I read the message again, trying to make sense of it. Who could be sending me such a mysterious text? I got out of bed and began pacing around my room, trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to ignore the message and go about my day as usual, but another part of me was curious about who could be behind it and what they wanted. As I walked to the kitchen to make some coffee, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. I grabbed my phone and called my best friend, Alex. "Hey, I just got this weird text message," I said, reading the message out loud to him. "What do you think it means?" Alex asked, sounding concerned. "Maybe it's a prank," I suggested, but Alex wasn't convinced. "You should be careful just in case. Maybe don't go alone if you decide to meet them." I nodded even though he couldn't see me. "Yeah, that's a good idea. But what if it's something important? What if it's about Eva and Gerald?" There, I'd said it out loud. The suspicion that had been gnawing at me for weeks. Alex's tone turned serious. "Then you need to know. But you can't go in blind. Let's do some digging. See if we can find out anything about this number or what might be going on." I agreed, and we spent the next few hours trying to uncover any information we could about the mysterious text. We searched online, checked social media, and even asked around to see if anyone knew anything. But every lead seemed to end in a dead end. As the sun began to set, I found myself getting more and more anxious. What if the message was more than just a prank? What if it was a warning or a message from someone who knew something about Eva and Gerald? I decided to take a walk to clear my head. As I strolled through the park, I couldn't help but think about Eva and Gerald. How could they do this to me? We were supposed to be happy, supposed to be in love. But now, everything felt like a lie. The more I walked, the more I realized that I needed to know the truth. I couldn't just sit back and wait for something to happen. I had to take action. When I got back home, I sent a response to the unknown number. "I'll be there," I typed, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I was ready to face whatever it was. The waiting game began. I checked my phone obsessively, waiting for a response. But there was nothing, just silence. As the clock struck midnight, I made my way to the old warehouse. My heart was racing, and my mind was filled with worst-case scenarios. What would I find there? Who was behind the message? I pushed open the creaky door and stepped inside. The warehouse was dimly lit, with only a few flickering lights illuminating the space. I looked around, trying to see if anyone was there. And then, I saw a figure standing in the shadows. "Who are you?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. The figure stepped forward, and I felt my world come crashing down. It was someone I knew, someone I trusted. But the look in their eyes was one of guilt and shame. "Ronald, I'm so sorry," they said, their voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know how to tell you. My mind was racing as I tried to process what was happening. What didn't they know how to tell me? What was going on? The figure took another step forward, and I felt my anger rising. "Tell me what?" I demanded, my voice firm. The figure hesitated, and for a moment I thought they weren't going to say anything. But then the words spilled out. "It's about Eva and Gerald. They're having an affair." My world stopped. Everything around me came to a standstill. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, like all the air had been sucked out of me. "What?" I whispered, my voice shaking. "That's not true." But the figure just nodded, their eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry, Ronald. I didn't know how to tell you." I stood frozen, my eyes fixed on the figure before me. "Tell me everything," I demanded, my voice low and even. The figure hesitated, then began to speak. "I saw them together at a restaurant. They were laughing and holding hands. I knew it was wrong, so I followed them. They went to a hotel and I saw them go inside together." My mind was reeling. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked, my voice rising. The figure shook their head. "I didn't know how. I didn't want to hurt you." I turned away, trying to process the information. I thought about all the times Eva and Gerald had been together, all the times they'd laughed and joked. It all made sense now. I turned back to the figure. "I need to confront them," I said, my jaw clenched. The figure nodded. "I'll go with you." We walked to Eva's apartment, the silence between us thick with tension. When we arrived, I knocked on the door, my heart pounding in my chest. Eva answered, a look of surprise on her face. "Ronald, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice innocent. I pushed past her, entering the apartment. Gerald was sitting on the couch, a look of guilt on his face. "Ronald, I can explain," he stammered. I turned to him, my anger boiling over. "Explain," I repeated, my voice cold. "You're having an affair with my girlfriend. There's nothing to explain." Eva took a step forward. "Ronald, please listen to us. We can work through this." But I wasn't interested in listening. "You're both liars," I spat, my anger and hurt pouring out. "I don't want to see either of you again." I turned and walked out of the apartment, leaving Eva and Gerald behind. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I had to get out of there. As I walked away, I felt a sense of determination. I would get through this, no matter what. I would rebuild my life, and I would move on. But for now, I just needed to get away. I started walking, not knowing where I was going, but knowing I had to keep moving. The city streets blurred together as I walked, my mind reeling with thoughts of Eva and Gerald. Eventually, I found myself at Jean's apartment. I knocked on the door, hoping he would be home. When he answered, he took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. "What's going on?" he asked, concern etched on his face. I took a deep breath, trying to calm down. "It's Eva and Gerald," I said, my voice shaking. "They're having an affair." Jean's expression turned angry. "Those bastards," he muttered. "What are you going to do?" I shook my head. "I don't know," I admitted, "but I need your help. I need someone to talk to, someone who can help me get through this." Jean nodded. "I'm here for you, Ronald. We'll get through this together." And with that, I knew I wasn't alone. I had Jean, and together we would face whatever came next. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. My mind was racing with thoughts of Eva and Gerald. I couldn't believe they had been lying to me for so long. I kept replaying our conversations, our laughter, and our moments together. Everything seemed fake now. I got out of bed and started pacing around the room. I couldn't shake off the feeling of betrayal. I thought about all the times I'd trusted them, all the times I'd confided in them. How could they do this to me? I stopped pacing and looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't recognize the person staring back at me. I looked lost, confused, and hurt. I didn't know what to do or where to turn. I decided to call Jan again. I needed someone to talk to, someone who could offer some perspective. When he answered, I poured out my heart to him. I told him everything, the discovery, the confrontation, and the aftermath. Jean listened patiently, offering words of encouragement and support. "You're going to get through this, Ronald," he said. "You're strong, and you deserve better than this." I appreciated his words, but I couldn't shake off the feeling of sadness. I felt like I'd lost a part of myself, like I'd been living a lie. Jean suggested we meet up for coffee. "Let's talk more about this in person," he said. "I'll come over and we can figure out what to do next." When Jean arrived, we sat down at the kitchen table. "What do you want to do?" he asked directly. I shrugged. "I don't know. I feel like I've been punched in the gut. I don't know how to move forward." Jean leaned forward. "You need to take care of yourself right now. Focus on your own well-being. Don't rush into anything." I nodded, knowing he was right, but a part of me wanted to confront Ava and Gerald again, to demand answers and explanations. I wasn't sure what I wanted, but I knew I needed time to think. As we sat there, June's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and sighed. "It's Eva," he said. "She's been calling me non-stop, trying to get in touch with you." My anger flared up again. "Don't answer it," I said firmly. "I don't want to talk to her right now." Jean nodded and let the call go to voicemail. We sat in silence for a moment, the tension between us palpable. Then Jean spoke up. "You know, Ronald, you deserve so much better than this. You're a good person, and you deserve to be treated with respect and honesty." I appreciated his words, but they didn't ease the pain. I felt like I'd been shattered into a million pieces, and I didn't know how to put myself back together again. As the day went on, I couldn't shake off the feeling of sadness and betrayal. I knew I had to move forward, but I didn't know how. I felt lost and alone, unsure of what the future held. John stayed with me for a while longer, offering his support and companionship. Eventually he had to leave, but he promised to check in on me later. As I watched him go, I felt a sense of gratitude. I was lucky to have friends like John, people who cared about me and were there for me in times of need. But as I turned back to my apartment, I couldn't help but feel a sense of emptiness. I knew I had a long road ahead of me, a road filled with pain, anger, and uncertainty, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to face it. I walked out of my apartment, slamming the door behind me. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I had to get out. The city streets blurred together as I walked, my mind reeling with thoughts of Eva and Gerald. I walked for hours, trying to clear my head. But the more I walked, the more I realized I couldn't escape my thoughts. I was stuck in a loop of anger, hurt, and betrayal. As the sun began to set, I found myself at the park. I sat down on a bench, watching as children played and couples strolled hand in hand. I felt like an outsider, like I didn't belong. A woman sat down next to me, striking up a conversation. "You look lost," she said, her voice kind. I turned to her, surprised by her perceptiveness. "Just going through a tough time," I replied, trying to brush it off, but she nodded understandingly. "I've been there," she said. "Sometimes you just need to talk to someone who doesn't know you." We talked for hours, and I found myself opening up to her in ways I couldn't with Jean or anyone else. She listened without judgment, offering words of encouragement and support. As the night wore on, I realized I didn't even know her name. "I'm sorry," I said, feeling embarrassed. "I don't even know who you are." "My name is Sophia," she replied with a smile. "And you are?" "Ronald," I said, feeling a sense of gratitude towards this stranger. Sophia stood up to leave, but not before handing me a piece of paper. "If you ever need to talk, call me," she said. "Sometimes all we need is someone to listen." I watched as she walked away, feeling a sense of wonder. Who was this woman, and why had she been so kind to me? As I sat there, I realized that maybe this was the start of something new. Maybe this was my chance to start over, to leave the past behind and forge a new path. I stood up, feeling a sense of determination. I would get through this no matter what. I would rebuild my life, and I would find happiness again. I walked back to my apartment, feeling a sense of hope that I hadn't felt in days. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to face whatever came next. When I got back to my apartment, I saw that Jean had left several messages. "Hey man, just checking in," he said. Let me know if you're okay." I called him back, feeling a sense of relief. "Hey, I'm okay," I said. "I just needed some time to think." Jean's voice was filled with concern. "We're here for you, Ronald. We'll get through this together." I smiled, feeling grateful for my friends. "Thanks, Jean, I appreciate it." As we talked, I realized that I had a long road ahead of me, but I also knew that I wasn't alone. I had Jean, Sophia, and others who cared about me, and with their support, I knew I could face anything. I hung up the phone feeling a sense of resolve. I would get through this, and I would come out stronger on the other side. I would rebuild my life, and I would find happiness again. And I would do it with the help of those who cared about me. I sat in my dimly lit room surrounded by shadows. My mind was consumed by thoughts of Eva and Gerald. I couldn't believe they had betrayed me so thoroughly. I thought about all the times we'd shared, all the laughter and memories. It was all a lie. I stood up and began pacing around the room. I couldn't just sit back and do nothing. I needed to take action. I needed to make them pay for what they'd done to me. I started thinking about ways to get back at them. I thought about confronting them again, but that wouldn't be enough. I wanted something more. I wanted to hurt them like they'd hurt me. As I paced, an idea began to form in my mind. I would gather evidence of their infidelity and expose them to our friends and family. I would make sure they regretted ever crossing me. I sat down at my computer and started searching for ways to gather evidence. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was determined. I would do whatever it took to bring them down. As I searched, I stumbled upon a forum where people shared tips on how to catch a cheating partner. I read through the posts, taking note of the suggestions. I realized that I could use social media to my advantage. I could monitor their accounts and gather screenshots of their conversations. I spent hours setting up fake social media accounts and monitoring Eva and Gerald's online activity. I took screenshots of their conversations and saved them to a folder on my computer. As the days went by, I gathered more and more evidence. I knew it was only a matter of time before I had enough to expose them. But as I sat in my room, surrounded by my evidence, I started to feel a sense of unease. Was I really doing the right thing? Was I just being vindictive? I pushed the thoughts aside. I knew what I was doing was necessary. I needed to protect myself and make sure they didn't hurt anyone else. I started planning the perfect way to expose them. I would create a social media post that would reveal their infidelity to everyone we knew. I would make sure it was public so everyone could see it. As I worked on the post, I felt a sense of satisfaction. I was taking control, and I was going to make them pay. But little did I know, my plan was about to take a dramatic turn, one that would change everything. I sat on the beach, watching the sun set over the ocean. The sound of the waves crashing against the shore was calming. I had been thinking a lot about my recent experiences, and I realized that I had been given a rare gift, the gift of perspective. As I reflected on my relationship with Eva and Gerald, I saw things more clearly. I saw how I had ignored the signs, how I had chosen to believe what I wanted to believe, but I also saw how I had grown. I had learned to stand up for myself, to demand respect and honesty. I thought about the people I had met along the way, like Sophia. She had been a stranger, but she had shown me kindness and compassion. I realized that there were good people in the world, people who cared about others. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I knew that I still had a long way to go, but I was ready for the journey. I was ready to learn, to grow, and to find my place in the world. I stood up and walked along the beach, feeling the sand between my toes. I breathed in the salty air, feeling invigorated. I knew that I would face challenges, but I was ready. I was no longer the same person I had been just a few weeks ago. As I walked, I thought about the future. I thought about the possibilities, the opportunities. I knew that I would make mistakes, but I was ready to learn from them. I was ready to take risks, to try new things, and to see where life would take me. I stopped walking and looked out at the ocean. The stars were starting to twinkle in the sky. I felt small compared to the vastness of the universe, but I also felt connected. I felt like I was a part of something bigger than myself. I took a deep breath and let the peacefulness of the moment wash over me. I knew that I would carry this sense of calm and clarity with me, no matter what lay ahead. I was ready for whatever came next. As I stood there, I heard a voice behind me. "Mind if I join you?" It was Sophia. I turned to her and smiled. "Not at all," I said. We stood there together, watching the stars come out. "You seem different," she said. "More at peace." I nodded. "I am," I said. "I've been through a lot lately, but I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned to appreciate the little things and to take care of myself." Sophia smiled. "That's wonderful," she said. "You deserve it." We stood there in silence for a moment, enjoying the peacefulness of the night. Then Sophia spoke up again. "You know, I've been thinking. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime this week." I was taken aback by the invitation, but I was also intrigued. "I'd like that," I said, smiling. As we exchanged numbers, I felt a sense of excitement. Maybe this was the start of something new, something good. As I walked away from the past, I realized that life is full of unexpected twists and turns. Sometimes it's the pain and struggles that shape us into who we're meant to be. I learned that honesty and respect are essential in any relationship, and that true friends will stand by you through thick and thin. I thought about Eva and Gerald, and how their betrayal had affected me. It was a painful lesson, but it taught me to be stronger and more resilient. I realized that I deserved better, and that I would find happiness again. As I looked to the future, I knew that there would be challenges ahead. But I was ready. I had grown, I had learned, and I had found a new sense of purpose. I was no longer the same person who had been hurt by Eva and Gerald. I was stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. I took a deep breath, feeling the sun on my face and the wind in my hair. I knew that life would continue to surprise me, but I was ready for whatever came next. I was ready to live, to love, and to find my place in the world. The journey ahead would not be easy, but I was prepared. I had the support of friends like John and Sophia, and I had myself. I knew that I would stumble, but I also knew that I would get back up. I would keep moving forward one step at a time, and as I walked into the unknown, I smiled. I smiled because I knew that life was precious, and that every moment was an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to love. I smiled because I was alive, and I was ready for whatever came next. This is the end of my story. Thank you for watching, and if you like this kind of content, kindly leave us a like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Thank you.